Hey, welcome back to this pilgrimage podcast. Great to be back together today. I am Noah.
And I am Fraser.
And we're super happy to just sit here today. It's a beautiful sunny Saturday and we're sat in our little music room looking outside and there's literally not a cloud in the sky. Well done, England.
Yeah, for once.
I know.
No, it's been good, the weather, the last couple of weeks, actually.
Yeah, we've had amazing weather. And so it's inspired us to talk about an amazing thing that we've been thinking about and trying to live out the last few months, I would say, maybe the last year. And that is simplicity. And it's quite funny because just before we started recording this episode, I was kind of thinking, are we ready to talk about this and blah, 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 and what are we going to cover? And it's quite comical, really, because the whole point of talking about this is to not make things complicated and to talk about simplicity. So we're giving it a shot. But I think simplicity is quite a trendy topic, would you say, at the moment?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a cultural thing that people are talking about, which I think has its positives and its negatives to an extent.
Yeah, definitely. And that's why we want to kind of talk about our perspective on it, because we're not really trendy people at all. We're not cool. We're not with the cool
Speak
crowd.
for yourself.
If one of us is not cool, I think you win the competition.
No comment.
He's not impressed. I'm joking. I am joking. But yeah, we're not really about trends and all of this. We have actually really embraced the values of simplicity, and I think when you actually get down to it, it's not really a trendy thing because it changes a lot of things in your life. So yeah, I don't really know how to approach this whole subject, really, because it is simple, but it's very broad and it's actually
I think it's
quite
a big
deep.
subject, yeah. And
It is.
I think that we'll probably come back to it, and it's part of...
It's interwoven in this pilgrimage and everything.
Exactly, yeah. That's what I was going to say. Yeah, it's part of how you live your life, which is implying the journey of your life, because obviously that is the whole thing of this pilgrimage. It's us as we live our lives as a journey. And it's almost saying, okay, on that journey, on that pilgrimage, let's slow down a little bit and start to really invest in the things that we believe really matter.
Yeah, exactly. There's a quote by Tolkien that I really love, and he says, "Don't waste the wonder with haste." And I think that sums up simplicity quite well, actually. It's taking time to value the most important in life, and in our society it's increasingly challenging because we're born in consumerism, born in busyness, and some of what that has brought to our society is really good, but I would probably debate that most of it is quite negative nowadays. So yeah, simplicity. Oh my goodness, I've lost my train of thoughts. Oh no, they're back. What I was going to say is that although the title of the theme, the subject is simplicity, I don't think it's actually something that's very simple in terms of it. Yes, it is striving towards the simple way of life, but I think that demands a lot of thought and of a conscious decision. It's not something where you can just I don't know, approach it a bit. I don't think you can approach it lightly.
Yeah, I think it even takes sacrifice as well.
Yes.
And like the kind of trendy version of this would be minimalism, I think.
Yeah, and the kind of like Scandi design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which we both like.
We love it.
We both I think minimalism is a great thing to aspire to, but I think what we're doing and what we're trying to live out is something that's deeper than that. And actually, if you really take this kind of idea to the extreme, it really shakes some of the foundations of even who you are as a person.
Totally.
Like one of the things that kind of got us talking about this and wanting to do an episode on it was the standard answer that you get when you ask someone, in the Western world, how are you? It's always, oh yeah, I'm good, just busy, or I'm good, but I'm really tired. And it's almost, it gets a bit annoying after a while, because when you pick up on it and when you realise it, you suddenly see it everywhere.
We should apologize
And
because people are now going to hear it everywhere.
yeah, but also like, and we're not saying that we don't do that, because we do it as well. And it's
Definitely.
almost like a comfort reaction, to say, yeah, I'm doing okay, but I'm really busy, as almost like a thing to say, I'm doing something, like I'm not just being unproductive. And I think it's this whole capitalist, I need to be doing something, I need to, like, success is always associated with what we do. What have you done? What are you known for? And
How busy
social
are you?
media has increased that even more, where you can put that on a platform now and be celebrated for it. So I think that's where the whole topic kind of comes from. And, you know, embracing a life of simplicity means embracing a life of slowing down and taking time to do things that really matter.
Yeah.
And so inevitably you're going to have to then say no to other things, which for me personally, I'm not good at that, and I don't enjoy doing that, and I actually find it very difficult, because there's lots of things that you can do that are good things and they're not bad. And so to say no to something, especially when it's a friend or a family member or someone you respect that's asking you to do something, I find that is very, very difficult. But I think if you want to live this simple life, it's vital.
Yeah. And it's a sacrifice in a way that you also have to accept that with simplicity, I think people are going to misunderstand you sometimes, and misunderstand your values, and maybe
Yeah,
judge you slightly without meaning to, because we've put busyness on a pedestal, and that if you're not crazy busy, then oh, what are you doing that's valuable in your life? What
yeah.
difference are you making?
That's why it's good to talk about it like this, so
Exactly.
that people understand where we're coming from and
Yeah.
what we're trying to embrace by living in this way.
Yes, totally. And the other side of the coin is we're not saying that simplicity is a selfish lifestyle where you can just say no to people because you can't be bothered to do things and you just want to have more time for you and your family or whatever. But it's all about living life, loving people, but not living life to impress people. And I think a lot of our society and, and our busyness and all of it, and like what Fraser mentioned with social media, and, I'm guilty of it. I always use Instagram and I enjoy just posting things and trying new filters and all of that and just, sharing a bit of my life. But I am conscious. I don't want to live a life that's trying to impress anybody because, first of all, I disappoint myself. So imagine how hard it would be to keep it up with everybody else and always do something that other people are going to admire. I think it's just such a waste of time, and actually probably a lot of our useless busyness is spent trying to impress others, and that actually doesn't mean that you're doing something productive.
Yeah, definitely. And you end up doing things and things becoming part of your schedule, excuse me, where the root of it is actually because you didn't want to say no, or because, we wanted to do something because it was going to make us look good, rather than it being the right thing to do. And I think that's an important thing to think about and look at and kind of process and, yeah, just reevaluate, my schedule. Is it centered around what I feel is the right thing for me to be doing at this period in time?
Yeah, definitely. And so I would say that one of the really good things to have when you're trying to embrace a simpler life is to have a buddy, have someone that you do it with, and almost like you're doing a little challenge, with this person of let's try and live our life simpler. Obviously for us it's been easy because we live together, like we're married and everything, and I think it's really good because we can support each other, and even because we live in a society that's so full of these things we're trying to fight against or to embrace less, it's still hard sometimes to not fall in the trap and to not want to consume and all of it. And so you have someone that helps you stay on the path. And also, simplicity is all about embracing relationships, embracing time and people and not things. And the reason why one of the reasons why it's probably become a bit of a trend in society is because people are realizing that there is a void that you can't fill with things, and there is a deep need for connection and relationship.
Yeah.
So, okay, on a bit of a lighter note, now that we've done a whole speech on it, and by the way, like, we're totally learning this. We're not saying that we're living the simple life perfectly. Like, it's totally, I think it's going to take us until the end of our life to embrace it, but it's great. It's great to just try it and live it and see it become part of your life. And like, it's not even something we were discussing earlier, weren't we? We don't even know when it really started. It seems like it's just been a process that we've been on and something we've been attracted to. And it's been interesting because it's just naturally formed in our life as we've grown in our marriage and in what life looks like, sharing it with someone else, and all of that. It's kind of woven itself into it without us trying to. And then as you let it do that, I think then the challenge becomes real, where it's not just a nice set of values, but it is sacrifice. But it's sacrifice that produces something really good.
Yeah.
So, do you want to share a couple of things maybe that you've experienced as we've been journeying a bit?
Yeah,
Simplicity.
I think a couple of things. One is what is this? Like, what is simplicity? Because we've spoken about it a lot, but you might be sat there thinking, okay, but what does that actually mean in your life? And as I was reflecting on what does it mean to live simply and live slowly and really make the most of every opportunity that this life offers us, I think that in terms of, we say, oh, it's the little things in life or it's the simple things in life. And, I was thinking, well, what is that? What are those things? And I think it's the everyday things that we have to do, seeing the beauty in that. That's part of it. But then I also think that it's the things that actually have stayed the same throughout human existence. Taking time for your family, for your loved ones, being there for them, truly being there and not being too busy for people. Taking time to like have food together, have a meal together, sit down and actually have that as a thing that you put in place in your life. Sitting down and having a meaningful conversation with someone. I think it's all these kinds of things that are entailed within simplicity. And I think the other thing I've been thinking about is the speed at which we live our lives. And in our Western world, that's usually at quite a fast pace, and we have quite a big capacity. And there's a book that I'm reading at the moment called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. I'd really highly recommend it. We've both listened to the podcast that he did with another guy who's written a book on hurry as well called Jefferson Bethke, and they basically talk about a way of living, and it's from a Christian point of view, so how these principles of living life at a slower pace actually enable us to live the Christian life to the full extent. And actually when you live in the way that the rest of society and culture live at that speed, it's very hard, or actually maybe even impossible, to live a true Christian life. And one of the things he says is that, so I've got the book here, I'll just read a little quote. So he's talking about how slowness in our culture is seen as a bad thing, and he sums it up by saying the message is clear: slow is bad, fast is good. But in the upside down kingdom, so the Christian kingdom or the kingdom of God, our value system is turned on its head. Hurry is of the devil, slow is of Jesus, because Jesus is what love looks like in flesh and blood. And he talks about joy and peace, and basically says how these things aren't actually compatible, they're incompatible with being hurried. And he talks about, he's very honest and says how he recognises when he's hurried, if he's late for a meeting or something that he's going to with his family and he's hurrying, he's naturally short with his kids, or he's off with his wife, or he gets road rage because he's in a rush to get somewhere. And that obviously really kind of speaks, I think, to all of us. I know that it speaks to me of the need to slow down and take time and think about these things that are the little things in life or the simple things in life, and really live in those moments, not be waiting for the next thing that you've got to get to, or looking forward to the next, I don't know, exciting thing that you've got in your life, but
Yeah.
learning to embrace the everyday moments.
Yeah. It's such a good point, and I think we could just stop the podcast here and all go away and think about that, because it's just really actually putting that in practice is a huge mind shift, and it will make a huge difference in life. And I mean, for myself, I so recognize that I'm very easily, I don't know, just not very kind and quite. I almost feel like hurry makes you more of an angry person, because it makes you a bit irrational, doesn't it? Because it's like you're put under pressure of, you have to make a decision in that moment, or you have to make this thing happen right now. And it's like we can't take it as human beings.
Yeah.
And I totally recognize that in my own life. Like, I know how easily I can fall short when I'm put under pressure, and when I'm in that hurried state. And you probably know it. You know it firsthand. Yeah. It's so interesting as well to think that, God himself isn't in a hurry, when obviously you might not you might not have the same faith as we do, but we believe that God holds everything together, and God deeply cares about the individual, and yet deeply cares about the global and the overall at the same time. And it's just incredibly huge. It's impossible to even imagine. And yet in that, he is the example of an unhurried lifestyle.
Yeah, I
And
think Jesus is the ultimate example, isn't he, of
he is.
someone who was in such high demand. He was the equivalent of a celebrity in the ancient world. He drew crowds of thousands, and there was always a need for him to fill. And when you're in that position, I'm sure it feels like you felt like he had the weight of the world on his shoulders, and that
Yeah.
he needed to be there for as many people. But you just get this overwhelming sense that he was never in a rush, and you even see that because people are saying to him when he's going somewhere, come on, hurry up. But he wants to take time to meet people along the way. And I think one of the biggest things that I've kind of learned from that recently, it's something that our pastor said a couple of weeks ago when he was talking on a Sunday, where he said that Jesus was always ready to be interrupted. And I'm not the kind of person that likes to be interrupted. I'm sure Noah can testify to that. If I'm doing something, I like to focus on that and get it done. I guess maybe it's a man thing, or I don't know, personality thing, whatever it is. I like to focus on it and get it done. And being interrupted in my everyday life is something that doesn't come naturally to me. But when you're living in a way that's a bit slower and a bit more simple, you just fill your mind with the things that you need to think about, and not try and take on the problems of the world all in one go, then you actually have more time and space to look up and look around you when you're, I don't know, going to do the food shop, and you actually see the people that you're interacting with, rather than just thinking about the next thing or having your mind elsewhere.
Yeah, totally. And that's, I think, the big lie that entangles so many of us, is that we always think that the most important things are the things that are a bit more glamorous than the everyday tasks of life, And I think that's a big lie. And I'm slowly putting pressure off myself by starting to realize it's a big lie, because I can find as much joy in commuting to work than I can find if I'm at a friend's birthday party in a really nice outfit. Because on my commute to work, I can interact with people, that I wouldn't necessarily know. And maybe I go to this birthday party and I know everyone. And I don't know, maybe that's a rubbish example, but I just wanted to try and communicate that it's so nice when you take the pressure off yourself because you're not looking for something better, but you're learning to appreciate what you have in this moment. And that's the part of sacrifice as well, is to be content with what you have.
Yeah,
And it's a nice idea, and it's not always nice when you're trying to live it out,
yeah,
because you have to accept that you're not going to get certain things, and that actually you have enough to be happy with what you have.
yeah. And
It goes
yeah,
beyond happiness, to be honest, but yeah.
yeah, and I think like your mum, is it your mum that says the best is the enemy of good?
Better is the enemy of good.
Yeah, better is the enemy of good, and I think that that's very true. And God, when He made the earth, He said that it was good, and so a lot of us, especially in our Western society, the context that we live, we generally have very good lives, and I think we need to learn to be appreciative of that. And in our culture, people always want to play the victim card, and they're worse off than you because of this, that, and the other. But I think sometimes we need to actually just be grateful and thankful for what we do have. We have a roof over our heads. We can go and get food or nourishment whenever we need to, and we generally have enough money to do that. We have a government that, if we're in financial difficulty, will help us out. We have families. We have, all of these things: jobs, cars, houses. We have a lot of things, and I think simplicity is going back to those things, the things we often take for granted, and just taking time to breathe and say, I'm grateful, I'm choosing to be grateful.
Yeah.
And I think simplicity can look different for different people. For me, as for example, a songwriter, I don't need to try and write the next hit song. I just need to try and write the song that I feel is inside of me to write for that day.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be the best thing I've ever written. Or, if I try and cook dinner for me and Noah, it's probably not going to be as good as when Noah does it. But I can do what I can do well. I'm the burger
Yeah.
man, so I always cook when we have halloumi burgers because Noah's vegetarian, so I can't necessarily make beef burgers.
Sorry.
Or the other thing is, I did it the other night, Thai sweet
Oh,
potato
that's
curry.
so good.
Um,
I love this
so I
dish.
can do that well, and I'll do that, and it's
You do
like,
it better than me because I tried it once and I messed it up.
and I think simplicity, that's an example. Simplicity for Noah in cooking is going to be much more advanced than what I can do. But simplicity for me, it might be simple, but I'll do a good job of that and try and improve next time. And
Yeah.
yeah,
I think that's the whole thing. It's recognizing what you have and taking the pressure off yourself. And honestly, just try these two things, and I'm sure it will bring that simplicity into your life automatically. And then it has some implications in terms of possessions because of the society we live in. But we've found that actually having less things, and we still, honestly, we have so many things, and we are so grateful for them. But we're much more conscious of what we get, aren't we?
yeah, I think less is definitely more.
Less is more,
And
that's true. And the
yeah,
less you have, the less distractions you have to actually do things that matter. Like for us, this matters
yeah,
to us, even if only two people listen, who knows? But
yeah,
this is something that matters, and doing music is something that matters, and being with family. And even, just when we're having dinner together, to not have our phones there and actually be with that person in the moment.
yeah. And like, I think a lot of these podcasts have come from conversations that we've had around the dinner table like this. This is like generally how we talk about things,
Yeah.
in
And
our
it's probably
lives.
because they're moments that you enjoy, and when you're doing nothing else but sitting there and having something enjoyable,
Yeah,
and
yeah, you're relaxed,
you're
and yeah.
relaxed. Yeah.
And I think it's making decisions that enable you to do that. Like one of the decisions we made from right at the beginning of our marriage is to not have a TV. And, I think for some people that's quite a big deal. For us it wasn't necessarily a massive thing, and we still watch things on our laptop and stuff like that. But it means that, you know, when people come into our living room, the main thing isn't this massive TV that's there. that centers the whole room around that. We have, we try and set it up in a circle so that it's all about people communing together and actually talking to one another.
Mm.
And so for us, simplicity looks like that.
Yeah,
And
and
for
it's
other
actually
people, it will
enabled
look
us to have
different.
more people in the house because we have
Yeah,
a small
we probably
house.
couldn't fit a big TV in our house, to be honest.
But it's quite a good analogy because we have one less object for more human relationship,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's again I think there's so much more to simplicity than this, like we said at the beginning. But simplicity really is about ultimately in how I understand it and have experienced it so far. And Fraser, share what it's been for you. But for me, I think it's been that simplicity is the pursuit of time and people, just having time to process, to think, to live, to evaluate, to actually consciously think, which again, for me, that simplicity is not just naively living your life, but it's actually consciously thinking and engaging in deep thought about why do I do certain things.
yeah.
And then it's also about people, and the things that matter most at the end of the day is how you've loved people and how you make people feel. And that's a lesson that I'll forever be learning, but I'd rather learn it in my early days and try and just weave it into my life.
Yeah, definitely. And I would say very similar to you, but maybe slightly change the wording of it's making time for people.
Yeah,
Because ultimately, what have we done in this life if we haven't been there for people? For me, it's all about helping other people in whatever way that we can. And I know from experience, I've grown up in a church context, and in a church, there's always good things that you can do. You can always be part of the team that's helping people in this way, or this prayer time, or playing in the music group, or whatever. There's always something good that you can be doing that isn't necessarily bad. But if you're always going from one thing to the next, you don't have time for people to think
yeah,
about that person and send them a text or give them a call, or just send a nice package to someone. It's those things, it's those simple things in life that I think make life worth living and
yeah,
make a real difference. And so saying no to some of these things is so that you can say yes to having time for people. Like you said, you give your brain more space
yeah,
to be able to think about people in a whole different way. And I think for me as a person, I don't want to be remembered for all of the different projects and things that I did. Although, to be honest, when I was younger, I probably would have said that is what I wanted to be remembered for. But as I've grown, I've realised no, I want to be remembered for someone that was there for people and that used their life to make a difference for other people's lives. And I think that's ultimately, what matters.
yeah, totally. And I think that it nails it because it kind of takes away the trendy simplicity talk that's about you and nice things you can do for your life. And actually, it puts it back on simplicity is stripping your life so that you can be there for people. And it's actually I think it's a brave thing to do because it's you embracing sacrifice so you can make space for things that matter more. And I think in time, the sacrifice would be so worth it.
Yeah,
Really worth it.
yeah.
And it's nice to just live without pressure.
Yeah, it is. And I think for us, this pilgrimage, this whole project is quite an act of, neither of us want to release something that we don't feel is perfect or good, but embracing this life of simplicity and thinking, no, better is the enemy of good. This is good enough and we're going to get it out there. And it's not about how good we're perceived to be, by other people. It's about, no, we just want to share some thoughts and some songs with the world and express our creativity and just have a place to put that. And so this whole project, I think, is our response to that.
Yeah, I agree totally. And one thing I just thought when you were talking is that simplicity is also just realizing that the glamorous doesn't matter. Maybe it's just my own experience, but sometimes you feel like these things that we've talked about today. Some of it is really, it's just the normal things of life, the simple things, obviously. And it's like we're almost ashamed of actually having a conversation about these things because it's not cool enough. Do you feel like that, or is it just, I don't know if it's just me, I don't know if I'm communicating it really well.
Yeah, no, I agree. The thing that I thought of when you were talking about that was we were talking the other day about weddings, and like everyone wants their wedding to be the most special day. And the thing is, for you, it will be because it's your wedding.
Exactly.
And, you know, people spend ridiculous amounts of money on weddings, and we were talking about that and how, you know, we did spend money on our wedding, but we were very blessed to have, you know, we could have it in our church, and the reception venue was, you know, not extortionate and stuff like that. And we loved
And we
the
involved
day.
people around us to help us.
Yeah,
And to
help
not
us
have
with
to
things.
just buy everything and actually involve people we love in that day.
Exactly. And I think that's what a wedding's about. And I would hate for the Western idea of a wedding to be about who has, like, almost like a competition. And sometimes it feels like that, to be honest. But the thing is, once you've had a wedding and you have had that day and that special day, and you've been married and you've lived with that person for a while, you look back and you're so grateful for the day. But the things that mattered wasn't, I don't know, what kind of cups you had or what kind of venue you had. It was the people that were there, and it was
it's
the
the people and it's each
celebration.
other.
Yeah, and the person, yeah, exactly, that you committed to on that day. And I think that's kind of a example of kind of this simple life. The simple life is this understanding of what really matters.
Yeah.
And so getting the balance between having a lovely day and having nice things, but not going, you know, to the extreme where it becomes is about, you put pressure on yourself and it's just all about how
And
it compares to
materialism.
other things. Yeah, and it
Who's
is
got the best
materialism.
bridesmaid dresses and all of that.
Yeah, whereas it's like, just take the pressure off yourself.
Yeah.
And I know I'm saying that as a man, and I think that girls especially, you know, their wedding is their day to be, you know, a princess if they're into that, which is, you know, if I understand that people want to have that experience and opportunity, and you can
I
go
don't.
for it.
No, I'm joking.
You're not really that kind of person, but
I'm joking. No hate for the princess brides. No, it's true, but like even as a girl, you know, who, I don't know, like obviously our wedding day was huge and the best day of my life. But we both decided when Fraser proposed and we started talking about getting married, and it's just so exciting. It's so great. But we literally loved the whole process, and we just have the fondest memories of our wedding day because we decided from the beginning we're not going to put pressure on ourselves, you know, and we weren't striving to have the best wedding day, and we had an incredible day. In our own eyes, it was the best day, and I think a lot of it is because we didn't try and make it something that it could never be. And also, like we were talking about that the other day, how much we've evolved since our wedding day, even in terms of like our style, you know, and a lot of simplicity is to embrace less material things. And I think that, again, this situation speaks about this because we've even evolved in the things we like and how we are, you know. And if we'd spend thousands and thousands trying to get all these things, and then we look back just 2 years after and think, man, we've grown so much. Was that a waste? And I think we could say, yeah, it was, if we'd indulged in that. But yeah, it's honestly, it's so good taking that pressure off yourself and just enjoying the people around you. I think we're going in circles now, aren't we? But this is the message.
yeah, I think we've nailed it. Yeah.
Hopefully. No, we hope that you enjoyed listening to this, that it helps you in your pilgrimage, that maybe you try something new this week or today and just have a new perspective on what enjoying life is about, and just, you know, value the people around you, cherish your loved ones, and be grateful for what you have. And yes, there's always space for improvement, but there's always space for gratefulness as well.
Yeah.
So have a good week, day, and see you soon.
See ya.
Bye.